I didn't have this memory with the hypnotherapist. It was in a dream. And the dream was about a long ago time. I knew immediately that it was a past life dream. And that's really funny because, my recent video on this channel was about 6 pointers that you can look for if you've had a dream to see if it's been a past life dream. Well, I didn't mention the most obvious one, and that is you are not who you are in this lifetime. You're somebody else. And that's what I was in this dream. I was a man. Not only that, I was a man who was tending nets. And one of the pointers, as far as is this a past life dream, it has to do with, are you doing something that you wouldn't be doing in this lifetime? And there were other men tending nets as well. Plus, I was wearing different clothes than I do in this lifetime. I was wearing brown wool clothes. That's another indication about a past life dream, that you're wearing clothes with fabrics that we don't use in this lifetime, and that the clothes are not made with a sewing machine, which was the case. So I am mending these nets, and there's other guys mending nets around me, and we're buddies, we know each other. But I'm waiting, and I'm waiting for this particular man who is my really special man. Now, in this dream, it didn't occur to me that I would have a gay relationship with this other man. I only knew in the dream at first that he was very, very special to me, and I was waiting for him to arrive. And when he did arrive, I did have that feeling inside of loving him and being really happy to see him. He had gone to this building of, you could see it sort of in the distance, that was made, it looked like a shack. It was made out of wood. So here's another indication of a past life. It was a building made more roughly than we would make a building nowadays. Plus, nowadays we have technologically advanced materials. We wouldn't necessarily just have a wooden structure. I knew that he had gone to see if we had an opportunity to sail on a ship. So the reason I was sitting here with the other men mending the nets was because we wanted to stay close to the place where the company that sailed the boats would need crew. So my friend had gone to see, was there anything new coming up that we could go and apply to work on that ship? But when he came back, he shook his head no, and I was discouraged. So that was the first third of that dream. Now, this is something I've said before, and it is about dreams, that dreams can be on different levels. So this first part of the dream was about a past life. Now, the next part of the dream, the middle part, was a more regular life, a more regular dream, in that it was symbolic. And in this part of the dream, it was me, a woman, and my first husband. We were in a basement, and I took him on my back and walked up these white stairs with him on my back to the first floor. And at the same time, I could hear that song. It's an old song by the Hollies called, I don't know what it's called, but in it it says, "He ain't heavy, he's my brother." So I assumed then, from this middle part of the dream, that I was dreaming about a previous lifetime in which I'd known my first husband, and we were still married. wasn't yet that I was with my second husband. So this was with my first husband, and that we must have been brothers. Plus, because it was a regular dream with who I am now and who he is now, there was symbolism involved. And just for your information, stairs, especially white stairs, often have to do with rising spiritually, improving yourself spiritually. So if you dream about a white staircase, it could represent improving yourself spiritually. So in the dream, I was saying that I was helping him. That's why I was carrying him up the stairs to have a wider spiritual experience, which would explain some of our relationship in our marriage. The third part of that dream that night was back in the past. And in this, I was on a sailing ship in a storm, a man again, in the woolen clothes, brown woolen clothes, and the wind is whipping and the waves are huge, like, a building, and the ship is going up and down. And I was below decks, and somebody told me that my friend, who at this point I'm thinking he's my brother, he went overboard. And I run up to the main deck and am looking for him, and the boat is just tipping and down and up, and these waves are covering the deck, and it's wet, and somebody grabs me and hauls me down below deck, says, "Don't go up there, you're going to go overboard as well." And I was just so distraught. I wanted to find him. I didn't know where he was. The thought of losing him was terrible. So I woke up from that dream and went, "Oh, isn't that interesting? It's telling me about my relationship with," like I said, it was my first husband. But it didn't occur to me that this was a gay relationship. And partly it was because of that song, "He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother." So I assumed I was dreaming about my brother. Now, I had another dream about this time as well. And this time I had the dream the day after our divorce became final. So I had the dream the night of when our divorce became final. And in this dream, you know how it is after there's a huge storm. I don't know if you've ever experienced a hurricane or hurricane force winds or big tropical storms. That I live on the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic East Coast in the United States, and I've experienced one hurricane and certainly tropical storms, many nor'easter, or many storms off the East Coast here. And the funny thing is, you can be in all this, the wind is making that scary sound, the trees are bent over, waves are huge. Then the next day you wake up, and in our case, part of our roof had blown off during the hurricane. Anyway, you wake up the next day, the sun is shining, the sky is blue, the birds are singing. Yes, you may have some trees down in your yard, but the rest of the trees are standing up, their leaves are green, there is debris all over the place. There might be stuff in your yard that came on the flood that flooded your yard during the storm, but the day after the storm and 2 days after the storm, it's like nothing happened. Everything is calm. So this second dream I had was a dream of after the storm. And the sky was blue, the sun was shining. We were on a tropical shore. So the ship was at anchor, or it must have been at anchor, and then we took the lifeboats to shore, the smaller boats to shore. But there were palm trees, but what we were doing was walking in the water. Have you ever been in one of those life-saving lines where you hold hands and you walk in the water? Because if you suspect someone has drowned, you are looking for the body. So this is what we were doing in this beautiful sunny beach cove. But we were walking, looking for this man that I love so much, for his body, and we didn't find it. When I woke up from that dream, I was sobbing out loud. I was crying so hard. And I remember saying, he's lost, he's lost, he's lost to me forever. So, but of course, in this lifetime, we were husband and wife. Now, again, it still did not even occur to me that we would have been in a gay relationship. And it was probably because of that song, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. However, a number of years later, I was having lunch with my boss at NASA. I worked at NASA at the time. And he was telling me about a book he'd gotten from the library, and it was called something like History of Same-Sex Relationships, which was very interesting. He was saying how years ago, even in the Christian church, there was no stigma attached to a same-sex relationship. It's just that people would want to know, are you interested in the same sex, or are you interested in the opposite sex? And then if they were attracted to you, they would know whether you'd be attracted to them, whether there was a hope that you'd be attracted to them or not. And it was only relatively recently that it became even illegal to be in a same-sex relationship, never mind marriage. He also said that in the days when everyone was fine with whatever your gender choice was for a relationship, there were certain occupations that people who were in same-sex relationships drifted to. And he said, for example, sailors. Because he said, just think, they're away from shore for so long, and they can't bring their wives with them if they're heterosexual. So it made much more sense that gay couples would be sailors. And there's even that saying, a gay sailor. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I said. And my boss said, what? And I thought, he's obviously okay with the idea of a same-sex relationship, but is he okay with past lives? So I said, oh, nothing. He said, that's okay. Tell me. And I thought, I said, no, it's just I suddenly realized something. I thought of something that I didn't realize before. But that is when I realized I'd been in a same-sex relationship with this man. And I loved him as a man with everything I had. And I was totally heartbroken when he died. So I actually feel very fortunate that I had that experience, that memory, because in this lifetime, I'm heterosexual, and a lot of heterosexual people just can't understand why a person would want to be in a relationship with someone of the same gender, but I sure can understand it. Yeah. So the nice thing about us, my first husband and I, being heterosexual in this lifetime, is that we could do something we couldn't do as a same-sex couple, and that was that we could have children. And that's what we did. And we were both so into having our children. We had 3 children. We had home births, we had natural births. I breastfed. We just took birthing and parenting so seriously, and we did it with all our heart and mind and soul. Toodaloo.